Welcome back. Some schools in Cape Town have warned parents to be vigilant amid an increase in attempted abductions. The Western Cape Education Department's spokesperson, Bronagh Hammond, says 2 attempts on learners were reported in just the past few days. In fact, Bronagh Hammond joined us this afternoon for more on this discussion alongside Herman Bosman, who is a criminal expert. Both of our guests, thanks very much indeed for joining us. And because this is an education story, Bronagh, I want to begin with you. And I've got this communique here from one school in Mitchell's Plain, which has issued this alert out to parents. Just how bad is it?
Yeah, I don't think we should be too alarmist. This is just a one school reporting to their school community regarding, the 2 attempted abductions last week that happened on Tuesday and then Friday last week. So, of course, the school was concerned regarding the cases at their particular school and put out a warning to parents just to remind children to remain vigilant while walking to and from school. But, thankfully, I have checked with our Safe School Centre. We haven't received any other reports of attempted abductions with learners travelling to and from school this year as yet. So, but I think, it's always wise to continuously remind our children to remain safe when they are traveling to and from school, but also even just when they are within the community, to be vigilant, be aware of stranger danger, and to exercise caution.
Yeah, absolutely. Herman, I mean, I'm not sure about you, but for me, absolutely, we don't want to be alarmist at all. But for me, 2 abductions or 2 attempted abductions in the space of just a week, that sends alarm bells ringing for me, and I don't even live in Cape Town. And the point is that the message that we're now having to tell children, for example, from, when we were younger, the message was different to what it is now on how to keep our children safe, right?
Well, very much so. I mean, I don't think we must just look at what we know about and that's been reported at this stage. We must look at this holistically. We're currently sitting with 1 kidnapping every 30 or more than 1 kidnapping every 30 minutes in South Africa. That's reported statistics from the police, 50 per day. As we speak today, we had an incident of a 19 and a 17-year-old taken in Brits. So, in other places in our country as well, there's been incidents. So we only see this because this has been reported in the news what happened in Cape Town and because of the incident in Saldanha. But there's more across the country that we do not have reported or don't know about.
Okay, you're saying 1 every 30 minutes, 50 per day, and obviously a fraction of that is making it to the news headlines, Herman. And I imagine the viewers who are listening in are as shocked as I am to hear those numbers.
Yeah, well, it's not children, it is people taken in total.
Yeah.
Yeah, so of that percentage, it's not broken down in statistics to know exactly the ages and what the motion behind it will be. Although we know in many cases it may be human trafficking, and in other cases behind it's always money, but they could be exploited in the sex trade or even as bad as for the purpose of muti. And this is, and you will be asking, is it really necessary to say these things? Well, I think it's reached a stage where we need to accept the new normal in South Africa. We cannot keep on saying, well, don't talk about this, don't mention this, we're going to scare people, we're going to make people afraid. We should face up to the threat that we're facing and rather focus on how can we prevent and manage this, because it's not going away. It has been increasing year on year. Statistics been increased year on year with around about 50% and more on kidnapping statistics, and predominantly so since we've had COVID.
Bronagh, I want to bring you into this conversation in just a moment. I just want to check with you, Herman. What is the provincial breakdown in terms of the spike in kidnappings?
Well, Gauteng, KZN, Cape Town, and Port Elizabeth, and also, but you must also remember when I named these places and saying that they are the key areas, you must also look at the population. Northern Cape has got a lower report of incidents, but a much lower population. But certainly, by far, the provinces that stand out, the ones I've just mentioned, the Eastern Cape area, also that I know of 3 active cases currently ongoing there. KZN has got cases, Gauteng has got cases, Cape Town has got cases. That everywhere, constantly we're having this. And it is not getting the attention of government at all. They're oblivious to the fact that this is becoming a problem and chasing away investors and people that, after cases that they've had, just pack up and go.
Yeah. Bronagh, having heard the statistics from Herman now about kidnappings in general, we're not just talking about children or even school-going children. Does that change? And I'm sure that you're aware, right, of the kinds of numbers. You're aware, by just talking to other people in the provincial government, for example, safety and security and the justice cluster. You're aware of these numbers. They come across your desk. How does this change how schools and how the department responds?
Well, I think we need to look at this from what is a community safety issue and then what is an education issue. Now, in terms of, I'm very aware of some very high-profile cases at the moment. As mentioned, the Saldana case of Jocelyn Smith, and, there's another one in Langa at the moment of children that do attend our schools that have gone missing recently. And it is, of course, concerning. And the role that we play in education, there's two roles. There's one is that educating our children on these risks through our life orientation program and in other programs at schools, about strange danger, about, not accepting sweets or presents from strangers, and then also, just being how to protect yourself in various forms. But then there's the other part to play in terms of how do we keep our children safe once they enter the school premises. Yeah. And, what are the security measures and the communication we're having with parents as well and service providers that are picking up children before and after school. So I think that's very important. But then the other thing is, what are our children doing once they leave the school premises? It's very difficult for us to manage, but we can certainly tell parents that if your child is commuting on foot or using public transport, to ensure that they walk in groups, and that's one way to avoid some of the risk. But that risk is definitely always there, and that's where we need to get other partners involved. The community safety organizations and just communities in general to ensure that we all remain vigilant at all times.
Yeah, Herman, I think this is, especially insofar as it relates to learners being abducted, either going to or coming from school, it's an incredibly complicated thing to try and deal with, right? And as Bronagh says, it's not just obviously an education department or a school issue. There's socioeconomic issues that feed into it. Our learners are not being picked up by transport. They're not being picked up by parents. In most cases, they are having to walk home. How do we then advise our children, Because even staying in a group and walking home doesn't necessarily keep them safe.
Well, there must be a program, as we've seen before, with the AIDS programs, with the COVID programs. There must be a safety and situational awareness program offered by schools where children are made aware how to conduct themselves when there's a threat. Many years, I remember when I was at school, when we had drills, fire drills, bomb scare drills, etc. They also need to be put time aside for this, because this is becoming a real factor, that we need to educate children. And I think that is a very pertinent place to do it at schools, where we can put some time aside, and it doesn't need to be a lengthy process, but just share some basic information to them. What must they do? How can they be on the lookout for a threat? What is the principles that one can teach them? They don't know. They don't know how to react to this. There's no file for them to draw on their heads because they've never heard of this. They're completely unaware that there may be a threat like this, because this is not a general topic of discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you talking about like a self-defense class in a manner of speaking, Herman?
More awareness. Like, for instance, what do you do if people stop a vehicle in front of you and 3 or 4 persons climb out? What must you do? They don't know. Then they freeze and they stand there and they're paranoid and they don't have an idea what must they do. But the moment you train them, you just advise them of their conduct, they immediately know, this has happened, this is my response, this is how I react. Yeah. And to be aware of these things can make a huge difference. Yeah, and to prepare them for this worst-case scenario. Bronagh, do schools have this kind of almost self-defense, this awareness campaign that's being run through schools?
Yes, 100%. As mentioned, through our life orientation curriculum, at a young age, they are taught about stranger danger. Are taught about how to protect their bodies and what's inappropriate, what's not inappropriate. And that's taught from a young age, and then going, obviously, as they go through the grade cohorts, what's appropriate for that grade. Also in terms of sexual abuse, physical abuse, drug abuse, substance abuse, and the dangers associated with that. So there's a lot that is being taught in schools, but,
Are there specifics around kidnappings?
Yes, that is involved. As I said, stranger danger is dealt with at a very young age, and the fact and what to do when a stranger approaches you and you feel scared, how to report it. There's various mechanisms. Not to accept sweets, presents from strangers. We have to look at it in an age-appropriate way, but it is taught through that life orientation curriculum. And then there's also other programs that are taught at schools. We've got other service providers that go to schools during our Safe Schools holiday programs. We've got programs from SAPS. And, some schools do actually implement the actual physical self-defense classes, which are also carried out at some schools where they opt to choose to do so. But the fact is that, physical threat on a learner or a child, sometimes is unavoidable. They use actual physical force to force that child into a vehicle, for instance. We do not know what happened in the cases that are currently high profile in the Western Cape now. Those were, within the community. But, that is a SAPS and community policing issue that also needs to be addressed.
Right. And Herman, I suppose, just as a parting shot from you, the thing that compounds this issue is perhaps that it's not just high-profile individuals that are being targeted, right? These are not the children of wealthy people necessarily that are being targeted. Anyone is possibly at risk.
Well, absolutely. I've had cases where a person was taken and demanded to pay 500 rand for the release of that person. So money is not as much the factor. It is the frequency of the incidents. If you have 10 or 20 cases a day and get 500 rand, that is what's happened. Up until now, we've just in the media seen the very high-profile ones of millions being demanded. If you'd forgive me, if I may just alert to the fact that when we look at the prevention of kidnapping, it is not so much the self-defense part. It is the awareness. How do you manage online social media? How do you do online gaming? How do you interact with people when you have a date that's been set up? Because that's the way children meet on Tinder and other platforms. It's not that we teach them that. They know these things. And how do you conduct yourselves? It's not an adult, according to them on the other side. They think it's a minor, or they think it is somebody that's got good intent until they meet people. And it's then only where things go wrong. You can't meet a person when you've never seen that person. All these awareness things need to be conveyed to children. I've been the chairperson at a primary and a high school for the best part of my children's school career, and we've never, ever had programs like this. General be safe, be aware, general talk, but not practical tips on when this happened, the car stops there. This is how you act. You run, you scream. When the threat is like this, it's physically in your face. This is how you conduct yourself. Be in a group. There's a lot of things one must physically teach them, and not just in theory in a class at a desk, but as part of a session when you go on the grass outside and you play. I have sessions where you teach children this. This is not something that's going to go away. This is going to grow as it's did so far, year on year on year, until we reach the point where you do it like you do a fire drill or a scare at school. And this is what I'm advocating, and it may sound absolutely bizarre. But if your children can once tell you, Dad, I got away, they tried to put me in the car. And I've seen this. I've spoken to people where children got away, but their parents told them what to do. They had an exact plan how to conduct themselves the moment this is happening. So I think we should just broaden the scope a bit and focus it directly on the immediate conduct when something happens. I've been to 4 schools in my area that said that they don't have time to have this. Offering it free of charge. Simply don't have time in the curriculum.
That is shocking. Yeah, it's absolutely an issue that is much, much bigger than stranger danger. SGB elections are happening this week. It's perhaps a good idea, if you are voting, this is a good idea for parents who are involved in that process to try and bring this up with their schools, get these programs, get people like you, Herman Bosman, to come in and do these very practical courses. Let me thank you both for your time this afternoon. Bronagh Hammond is with the Western Cape Education Department, and Herman Bosman, thanks very much indeed, a criminal expert.